Okay, my friends, let's see. So first, let's look at this problem this is review set 2A, problem 4A. This is when you're decomposing, I think is the word of it. It's kind of different because we're used to composing the functions, putting them together. Now we have to go the opposite. So basically, the best way I can see this is like I look at it from the inside out, and it's two functions. So you have to try to look at that and see how there's like, could you turn that into like two steps, starting from the inside and working your way out? So what does that mean? Well, let's look at that. Like this is the inside, and then this is the outside, the square root. Can you kind of see that? Like you could, another way of looking at it is you could look at it like this. It's the square root of something, let's say a. And in this case, a is equal to 1 minus x squared. So if you can see it, then you have to be able to see these problems in like two pieces, even though it's really on the surface looks like three pieces because it's got 1 minus x squared and then the square root of that. But if you think of that like it's just the square root of a, then you might be able to see, oh, well then g of x equals a, that's the inside piece, and then f of x would be equal to square root of a. Does that make sense? Because when you put them back together again, like when you say f of g of x, you're going to take the g part, which is, like I'm just thinking was a, or in this case it's really that whole thing, and then you're going to put that inside of the f part, and the f part is just like basically square root. It's just like the square root of whatever. So it's not like a great, it's a little bit fuzzy, hopefully you could do a few of the, go a little bit the other way first, the normal way where you compose it, and then the more you get better at that, then you can start to see, oh, it's going to go backwards. I'm going backwards. I want to look at the end result and figure out a way to make it come to that. So like g of x is going to have to, I'm going to switch colors. G of x is going to have to equal the inside 1 minus x squared. I'm going to put that in parentheses. That's that part right there. And then f of x is just going to be equal to square root of x. And remember that this x here is just a container. It's not, don't think of it as the same as that x. Ooh, somebody sent me a message. So then if you were to test that, go back the opposite way, and you would say f of g, then you'd say, okay, f of g, I want to take g, the inside, this, I'm going to put it inside of the x. So f of g of x is going to really turn into the square root, that's the f part, and then that x right there, I'm going to put that whole container into it, 1 minus x squared. So hopefully that makes it a little better. Let's try another one. Let's do the other 4b. So once again, what you're going to do is you're going to look at that. Like I got to figure out a way to like look at that in two steps. Because the f of x is that's the first part. And then I'm going to take that and put in the g. And maybe you can start to see the second thing I'm going to do, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square it. So g of x is going to be equal to just x squared. Ooh, my phone's active. Can you see that? It's like this whole thing is just going to think of that as x. It's just like it's like just a container. And then what you're going to put inside that container, that's f of x. F of x, you're going to put all this stuff inside of it. X minus 2, x plus 1. So there's your two functions. That's my, and if you want to test it, now that you test it, go back and compose it, put it together, and see if that works. Well, remember how to compose it. First, you put the f of x, you're going to say g of x minus 2, x plus 1. And the function g is actually equal to x squared, so I'm going to take this whole thing and put it into x squared, which of course would put me back to where I started, right when I put it in, because g of x is equal to x squared. So hopefully I didn't lose you along the way. Like maybe you can try that one more. Like once you get the hang of it, you could just make anything you want. You just have to do it, think of always in like two steps. So I like to decompose f of g of x. So g is in the inside, f is on the outside. So I would just think of it like, let's say I did something to the third power. something raised to the third power. And whatever that something is, it could be a lot of weird stuff. It could be like 1. It could be like a quadratic. X squared minus 3x. So then can you see the gx part? That's this part inside. That's the inside part. And the f part is the raising to the third power. So f of x would be x third power. G of x would be x squared minus 3x. Because that part right there is right here. That's going to go inside that x there, and that's going to be raised to the third power. So hopefully now, after 3 of them, if you're still confused, let me know. You could try to make some more of those. But I think that's hopefully pretty good. Oh, I got to stop the other thing. This thing.